Today I went to the Dollar Tree and I spent exactly $25. I got this pile of things here, and for a quilter to be able to pick up little notions and things, bits and pieces that we might need in our studio, the Dollar Tree isn't a bad place to shop. So stick with me while I unpack what I purchased today at the Dollar Tree. So I shop the Dollar Tree just like I shop the grocery store. I kind of go around this outside edge and then do the aisles. Well, on the first outside edges, like the housewares, cleaning items that you could get. And so I thought this microfiber duster would be perfect for dusting things for $1. That was great. And it comes off the little wand so you can throw it in the washer. I think this is a must for any studio. We have a tendency to get a little linty. Probably need another one of these to go over by the long arm because that's where it gets really linty. When I was in the beauty section, they had Q-tips in there. So I went ahead and got this little jar of Q-tips. I actually bought it more for the container that it was in because this is just a great way to keep it all closed up, keep them clean. And I can use these when I'm doing a service on my sewing machine. A glue stick. When you're doing applique, this is a great thing to have. Some people use it for temporarily adhering bindings. So it's always good to have a glue stick, and it was back to school, so they had tons of these. I saw this in the craft section, and it's a craft scraper. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I think it's called a hura, and it's a marking tool. Well, I don't have one of those, but this has a really nice edge to it. And so if you're not familiar with what a hura does, is you use it to create creases in your fabric so that you can stitch there or press a line, just a nice temporary way of creating a mark in your fabric. And I thought this would be just the ticket rather than going and getting an expensive hura. They make beautiful ones in wood, but I thought this was a great alternative for $1. And who doesn't need a compass protractor? I have one, but it's kind of janky. I think it's probably like 40 years old. So I thought maybe I would up my game. Sometimes I'm wanting to draw circles or a half circle shape on a project. And so I thought this would be perfect for that. So I got this compass protractor, not pronouncing that very well. A little pair of scissors. I have tons of scissors, but I really like the size of these scissors. And the reason why was I was wanting to create a little bit bigger stitch kit, and they had these little double pencil cases in the school supplies, and they just fit perfectly in there. And you put your needles in there and you flip this over, and then there's a section with dividers in it. I thought this would be great for putting my thimbles in there. And yeah, so that way everything is together. I got this other little pencil case. I thought this was a cute little box. I love the little stripes on it. And what I got it for were these chunky brushes that I got. I thought these would be great for cleaning my sewing machine when we're trying to get down in those races where they get really linty. And this way it would keep them clean to keep them all together, so then I knew where they were at. And I think I could probably put like my oiling pin in there so everything would be together. Let's see, would that fit? There. So everything is together. We have our swabs and some brushes and oiling there. And then there was this. I came across this little mini vacuum cleaner. It has a USB plug on it. But I have to say that while it's not super powerful, you know how sometimes there's some lint that you can't get to in your sewing machine, and if you just had a little bit of suction, and the sewing machine manufacturers don't like it when you use the spray air, the pressurized air cans, because then you can blow the lint further into the machine. And this doesn't have a huge suction on it, which I kind of liked because you want it to be a little bit gentle, but you know, it has a little bit of suction. And it definitely would pick up little linty bits in and around your sewing machine. So I thought this was kind of handy for $1. And there's a little vent in there. You clean it out here. I did do a little sucking or vacuuming with it, and it picked up some threads and some lint. I was pretty impressed for $1. And it's small and compact so that you could keep it close to your sewing machine if things were getting linty. You do have to have the USB plug-in for your electrical for this. It does not come with that, but I thought this was kind of interesting. The other thing I got was a lanyard, and I don't know about you, but are you always losing your scissors? I set them down all over the place and then I can't find them, but I know I have a pair in here because I just put them in here. So I thought this was kind of a neat little thing to pick up for $1. It's got a little hook. And there you go. I might have to shorten this because I'm not very tall, but definitely the way to go. And then this is one of my favorite things to get at the Dollar Tree. This is the second one I bought. I use these when I'm doing a lot of repetitive cutting, especially when I'm cutting up a bunch of half square triangles. This way it doesn't cause a lot of fatigue on my good cutting mat. I'd rather throw away this for $1 than a $50 cutting mat. And I don't even know how much they cost anymore, but I know they're pretty expensive, and who wants to replace those? So this was a great, always a great thing to pick up at the Dollar Tree. It seems like every time I'm there, they have them. So you might check yours for sure. Pick one of these up. Also, if you're using like X-Acto knives and doing real detailed cutting, use this rather than your good mat. And then I was in the household area where they have like foil, and I was actually in there looking for freezer paper because that's always something good to have in your studio, but they didn't have that, but they had this copper oven liner, and it's non-stick. So stick with me to the end because I'm going to show you this using fused applique, and let's test it out together and see what the results are. For $1, I figure it wouldn't be a waste and a good handy thing to have. If not, I can always use it in my kitchen. They also had a glue gun pad, and this is another silicone surface, and this is more in line with what you would find for doing fused applique. We'll just throw that on the floor with everything else. See if I can get this opened up. So let's give this a go with some fused applique and see how it goes. We'll test them side by side. And then I was going through some of my patterns, and I have one right here that I was thinking about. And I don't know about you, as a quilt pattern designer, I have a lot of my patterns in PDF, downloadable form, and they're not all in booklets. But I thought these little binder pocket pouches would be really handy to have, rather than, because you could put it in a binder, and here's one of my patterns, and it would go tuck in there nicely. And this way I would be able to see what the pattern was in my binder when I went looking for it. But I was more excited about this little pouch already on it because this pattern has these labels, and I want to keep all the labels with the pattern. And so then I could just put them in there and it was all together. So I thought this was a really great idea. They were a bit limited on them. I would have bought more of them. I ended up getting, I think, 4. And then I love this little rainbow notebook that it could go in, and it would just keep everything together nicely. And then I know that all my PDF patterns are in this binder. And then you'll be asking yourself, why did I buy a water dispensing bowl? Well, the reason why is that I have a 13-year-old Chihuahua named Bullet that sews with me all the time. And I have him in a really cute pet bed, but it's elevated. And so I always have his bowl elevated so that he'll stay in his bed and he can take a little drink. So I got him a new dog bowl, and I'll show you that setup in just a minute. So I promised you that I would introduce you to my little guy, Bullet. So 13 years old, has a little bit of a heart murmur, as a lot of Chihuahuas have. He's doing really well. But why be basic? With a basic bed, you got to have your little papasan chair. And because you're elevated, you have to have a little coffee table with your little drink here. So we try to keep him as comfortable as possible. He looks all sweet and lovey right now, but let me tell you, he can go full on terrorist attack right here. This little guy, he's got a lot of personality, super sweet, very cat-like, like a lot of Chihuahuas. So he's generally either in my studio with me or on my desk. Oh, thank you. Or on my desk when I'm doing my design work for pattern writing. So, yeah. He would be with me 24/7 if he had it his way. So let's see, let's test out these pressing, well, what we're going to use as pressing mats. We've got our silicone one here, and this is our oven liner that I picked up. I've gone ahead and peeled off the backing. What I do is I'll trace the designs onto the paper side of the fusible web and then press that to the back side of the fabric and then cut out with really sharp scissors. So that's my preferred method. So let's organize some of these and see how this mat works. That looks pretty good. So I've got a nice hot iron. I don't know, do you do much fusible applique? Let me know in the comments below. It's a lot of fun to do. This is hot. So this has got copper in it. Well, it's not peeling off very easily, that's for sure. I don't know that this would be my favorite. Might be good as a pressing cloth. Let's let it cool and see if it does a little bit better, because you don't really want to stretch those. So here I've done the same thing with the silicone mat. Let's see if it comes off the silicone better. Oh, but I haven't taken the paper off of these. Let's take the paper off. So now let's test our silicone mat and see how this does. I've taken the paper off of all of my bits. Well, the heat from my iron discolored it. Let it cool. Let's go back to this one and see, does it peel off easier once it's cooled? And I think that letting it cool is probably the better way to go. So that's a lesson learned for sure. Yeah, I think letting it cool before you peel it off would be a better strategy. And then you can just place that down onto the fabric that you want to fuse it to. So I think that was a good buy. And oh, look at this, like the silicone one, now that peeled off just like we would expect it to. Really nice and easy. It's just like butter. So there you have it. I've been testing out a little fall project that I'm going to do a video on, and I'm really glad that I found that little silicone mat, because doing these little bits, that works out really well. So there you have it. These are all nice and secure. Now we can just fuse it down to fabric that we want to put it on. These pieces are actually for a project that I'll be doing a video on for fall. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. And so even though you don't see him, he's always in the studio with me. And so until next time, happy stitching.